Hi, 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 hi. Welcome to another episode of The Amanda Show. My name is Amanda Akalonu, and as always, we are in for a treat today. So, we are going to discuss three major news stories coming out of Africa this past week, or even this week, not really the past week, but this particular week. We are going to discuss three major topics coming out of Africa. So, the first is hmm, the military governments of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali have officially set up a confederation. In fact, they set it up on Saturday, and by Sunday, ECOWAS had their meeting. So we're going to go. We are going to go into that conversation because ECOWAS is still trying to lure the three countries back into the fold. But right now, I think that they have completely severed ties with ECOWAS. So I want to discuss that today. You know, we've been following this story. Then from that, we are moving over to Rwanda. Now, you already know that recently the United Kingdom got a new prime minister. And then once he came into power, that is Keir Starmer, he completely decimated the Rwanda deal where United Kingdom was trying to send migrants who are seeking asylum to Rwanda. So he has, in fact, it's dead and it's buried. But I want us to discuss some things that have transpired with all of that. Then finally, for our third topic for today, we're moving to Cameroon. So this week, the government of Cameroon through the parliament, the president requested the parliament to postpone elections, and they did. That is one very upsetting story for me. So I want to delve into that topic for us to share ideas about what's going on in Cameroon and why is it because in my opinion that is a civilian coup. So why is a civilian coup okay and the military coup is not okay? We'll discuss that. And then um we dive into the topics, this week, we had the NATO summit in United States, and at the silence of the summit, Joseph Borrell made a very disrespectful statement about Africa. Initially, I wanted to have a full segment dedicated to that, but after I'm like, oh my God, it's Joseph Borrell. I can't even bother to spend a long time on him. So I'm going to give a response to Joseph Borrell. So, but before I get into that response, watch this video, his video, watch the clip from that summit, and let's discuss.
To some African countries, and you see people supporting what Putin is doing in Donbass, saying Putin has saved Donbass. Now he will come to Africa and save us. What kind of intellectual process is behind this kind of attitude?
So when I first saw that clip, maybe if you're just seeing it for the first time, you probably feel the same way I felt. I was really upset. But then at the end of the day, I looked at it and I'm like, this is not what my anger. And I want to say that to you also. This is not what your anger. Don't waste your anger on that statement. Words from a lightweight like Joseph Borrell shouldn't rile you up. You see, his words are as inconsequential and as lightly esteemed as his integrity. Why did I say that? In 2018, he was found guilty of trading with insider information. But it doesn't stop there. I want you to know who this person, Joseph Borrell, is. But it doesn't stop there. He's not smart either. Now, this is the same man who some years ago he went viral because he said, United when he was speaking about United States and their fight for independence, he said, "Oh, what that all they did was kill 4 Indians." This is the same Joseph Borrell. And if you know anything about history, you're going to take issues with that. When I first heard that statement, I thought it was quite interesting because it takes a different kind of genius to provoke both the Americans and also the native Indians. Apart from that, he has also said very demeaning things about women. And this is the same Joseph Borrell who said that Europe is a garden and the rest of the world is a jungle. So you can see from his previous statements that he's not the smartest tool in the box. So Joseph Borrell is not somebody you consult for words of wisdom. So because of that, Africa, disregard him. Listen, we are on the mission to build Africa. And as we are building Africa, we are going to hear more stupid things like this. So it is in our own good to ignore these stupid words and focus on building the continent. Well, that's it. That's all the time I'm going to spend on Joseph Borrell. Before we proceed, like this video, subscribe, and please let me know your opinion on the different conversations in the comment section below. Now, let's jump into the stories. Give me the drum roll. It's official. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have set up a confederation. They have formalized the whole thing. And this is after they left ECOWAS. Remember last year, in fact, the coup in these countries began in 2021, then 2022, and 2023. So 2023 was the last one in Niger, and that was when ECOWAS, under the leadership of Nigeria, threatened military intervention in Niger. So because of that, I believe these three countries found that it's in their interest to work together and stay united. That way, they can protect their interests and from inside, that is within the continent, and even outsiders. So this confederation is cutting across military, which I think is the present issue for these three countries. Because if you know anything about the state of the countries, as well as several other countries within the Sahel region, you know that they are having serious issues with terrorism. So, in fact, one of the accusations they levied against ECOWAS is that for decades that they have been suffering, not just ECOWAS, but also the French and the US military that were in their countries. They said for several decades they've been battling these issues of terrorism, and ECOWAS and the groupings, the military something they set up hasn't been able to fix the problem. French military wasn't able to fix the problem. The Americans weren't able to fix the problem. So now they said, someone said foolishness or insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. So now they have decided that let them try a new path and see if this works out for them. So other than, of course, they welcome the Russians, but other than that, they also integrating their military together because sometimes these terrorists can do things in Mali and from Mali jump into Burkina Faso. Do you understand? Now, because they didn't have this kind of grouping before, they weren't able to fight across their different borders. But now with this confederation, at least it promises that they are going to be able to integrate their military more closely so that they can deal with these terrorist activities. Then also, the confederation also encompasses economic things. I'm suspecting that they are going to introduce a new currency that so that they will be able to their citizens will be able to use. Now, why I find this good news for these countries, particularly these currency things, because for many since independent so-called independence, not independent, but anyway, since so-called independence, these countries have been using a currency printed for them by France. So that even shows that if you cannot print your own currency, you are not sovereign. So now they're trying to break out of the shackles of colonialism and set up their own currencies that they can use within each other. So I think it's an impressive occurrence, and want to see how far that goes. But anyway, this happened on Saturday. By Sunday, we had the ECOWAS meeting. Now during this meeting, because if I get ECOWAS, you can tell I'm excited. Oh, I'm so excited because ECOWAS has been humbled. That's why I'm excited because ECOWAS has been humbled. I was really disappointed in ECOWAS last year, 2023, when they threatened military intervention in Niger. This is after sanctioning Mali, sanctioning Burkina Faso, sanctioning Niger. Even medicine, food wasn't getting into Niger. So now the ECOWAS has been humbled. I like a very humbled ECOWAS. Well, okay, other than that, now by Sunday, ECOWAS had their meeting. And when they had their meeting, in fact, no, before, yeah, on Saturday, these countries, the countries of this new confederation, that is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they said it plainly that they and their citizens have completely turned their backs against ECOWAS. So now by Sunday, ECOWAS says, no, 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 we are not going to let you go. You have to stay. You have to stay with us. In fact, the president of Senegal, President Faye, has been given the responsibility, which I think is too much of a task anyway, but he's been given the responsibility to bring back these countries into the fold. I think it's too much of a task because these countries have said it. And from the statements they made, they are not going back to ECOWAS. So you're just giving President Faye a headache. The time he should spend on building and developing Senegal, you're using it to give him headache to almost pursue a fool's errand because it's not going to result in any positive outcome. So since this confederation was announced on Saturday, there's been a lot of political analysts give their opinion. Quite a number of them have said, "Oh, the confederation is going to fail." Others say, "Let's see how it goes." I'm of that opinion. Let's see how it goes because ECOWAS has failed with both terrorism and economy. ECOWAS failed with both terrorism and economy. So let them try to see how things can go. And let's give them 10 years. 10 years. Let's see if at the end of the day they made the right decision. Because the people who have been saying that um it's going to fail. That if you leave ECOWAS, it means that you're cutting yourself away from some of the development projects that ECOWAS is supposed to do in these countries, which is true. But let's not forget that these are not the first countries to leave ECOWAS. I believe some years ago, several years ago, Mauritania left, and Mauritania is doing fine. So it's not because you left. In fact, Mauritania is doing better economically than several of these other countries in ECOWAS. So being in ECOWAS doesn't necessarily mean that your economy is going to get better or your security is going to get better. Because Mauritania doesn't even have these issues with terrorism as much as these other countries within ECOWAS, including Nigeria. So I'm of the opinion, let us see how it goes. President Faye, please don't give yourself headache. Please and please and please. There's a lot of challenges in Senegal. I think you should spend more time fixing and focusing on those challenges in Senegal than giving yourself headache to try to bring in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger back into ECOWAS. But because it's not going to happen. In fact, I was hearing someone said that, and this is an outsider, by the way. The person is in France. So the person was like, the only way to bring them back into ECOWAS is to remove the regimes. That means they should overthrow this behavior of regime change. This behavior of regime change in the world is terrible. So anyway, the person said they have to do regime change to get them out. That way, when they bring in new leaders who are favorable to ECOWAS and um, some other external players, they can then bring them back into ECOWAS. But then I think that person made him is ignoring something. It's not just the leaders, that is, of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that have turned their backs against ECOWAS and the people who are pulling the strings of ECOWAS. It's not just them. Even the population, the citizens of those respective countries are done with ECOWAS. When Nigeria threatened military intervention, ECOWAS, under the leadership of Nigeria, threatened military intervention into Niger. Did you see the people who went into the streets protesting Nigeria's president and ECOWAS? There were a lot of people. So don't think that if you do a regime change to remove these three leaders, all the problems are gone, you can bring them back into ECOWAS and let business continue as usual. No, the people will rise up. Don't forget, when this military coup happened in these countries, the people supported them. Niger is the one that is even freshest in our minds. You see the thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who went into the streets to jubilate. So removing these leaders doesn't necessarily mean you have sorted out the ECOWAS problem. No, no, because the people are against ECOWAS. The people are against those who are pulling the strings of ECOWAS. So instead of you to begin to think of how to do regime change in this country to bring things to continue business as usual and do things the way you've been doing before, because if you do that, you're going to get the situation is going to get worse because the people will revolt. The best thing you can do is to allow them take your hands off the three countries and focus on other parts of Africa or parts of West Africa. Because as long as Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are concerned, the leaders and the people have turned their backs. So I wish them good luck. I really hope that what they are experimenting now, because at the end of the day, the most important thing for a leader is peace to bring security and stability in their country. So if you cannot give security and stability, that is the most basic thing. That is the most basic thing a leader should be able to do. So now they are trying this path so that they can bring security and stability in their respective countries, rather than we thinking of how to do regime change, which is going to make the security situation worse. Rather than thinking of how to do regime change, let us find out how how can we help them. If you don't know how to help them, leave them alone. Leave them alone. So I wish these countries the very best, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Let's see, 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, let's see if this decision you have made is the best decision. I'm thinking it's going to be, but I'm not a prophet. But I'm not a prophet, so I can't conclusively say. But I'm thinking it's going to be a good decision for them to not just get their sovereignty, but to be able to work together, integrate their military to completely deal with this issue of terrorism and other economic issues. Even this ECOWAS that is saying that without us you cannot fix terrorism issues in your country. Have the other countries in ECOWAS fixed the terrorism issues in their country, in their respective countries, like Benin, like Nigeria, like there are several of them. So if ECOWAS has not fixed the terrorism issues in these countries, These ones who are carving out a new path for themselves, allow them, allow them. So I wish you the very best, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Let's see how things turn out, but I'm hoping it's going to be for the good. Let me know what you think about all what we just discussed about these three countries and their confederation. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Now for the second topic for today. Why am I laughing? This is this is one of the funniest this is one of the funniest stories I have seen this year. So under the conservative, that is the Tories, under the conservative government in United Kingdom, they set up, I think that was like 2 or 3 years ago, they set up this, they had this plan to, the plan was to deal with the whole immigration issue in their country. That was the issue was immigration challenges. A lot of illegal immigrants are coming to the country. So the solution, according to the conservative government, was this. What was it? To deport or to export these migrants who are coming into the United Kingdom to seek asylum, to send them to Rwanda. In fact, I believe they spent about $400 million, yes, on this Rwanda deal. So the idea, the money was set up to was spent to set up infrastructure in Rwanda, like housing, food, all of those things, to set them up in Rwanda, so that anyone who is coming for asylum, seeking asylum in the United Kingdom, they'll send them there to process the whole thing. So the idea was to discourage people from coming, because if you know that, oh, I'm going to the UK to seek asylum, but the UK is going to send me to Rwanda, it will discourage you from coming. But it did not. People were still, the my immigrants were still running into the United Kingdom. So it didn't deter them. But Rwanda was able to set up the infrastructure needed. In fact, Suella Braverman, she was the former Home Secretary under the conservative government. She, at the time she went to look at the whole thing. I had an issue with that policy, but that's not the topic now. So she went to look at the infrastructure and she liked it. Now, with how many years? I think it was 3 years, 2 or 3 years. The conservatives were pushing this and they were working towards it. At the end of the day, they performed woefully during the elections that happened in the United Kingdom on the 4th of July. And because they performed woefully, the Labour Party won a large number of seats and became the main party in the parliament. Now that means Keir Starmer became the prime minister. Now Keir Starmer, in fact, not just Keir Starmer, but the Labour Party in general, they were having issues with this um, Rwanda, this whole Rwanda thing, because they said it wasn't going to work. And it was true, it wasn't going to work. We looked at it, it did not work. So anyway, once customer came in, one of the first things he did, he said he scrapped the deal and said he said it was dead from the very beginning. But that was not just the interesting part. It just the interesting part now is the UK is now hoping they can get some of that money back. $400 million. About, yes, I can't remember how much exactly it is in pounds, but converted to USD, it's $400 million. $400 million. Now they are looking to get some of it back. But Rwanda is now saying you can't get it back. You gave us, we did not cancel the deal. You canceled the deal. You gave us money to set up things like infrastructure, housing, and some other things to take care of the immigrants. We did our part of the deal. You came and said you're not doing the deal again. Now you want to get money. You think about it. Does it make any sense? It did not. Of course, it doesn't make sense. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. So, well, that's why I find it to be very, very funny. But United Kingdom wasted 400. The United Kingdom wasted $400 million. Do you know what $400 million can do for a lot of countries? And you just wasted it. So Rwanda said they're not giving that money back. I support them because money has actually gone into setting up the things that they were supposed to set up. So are they printing money to give the UK back? Well, having said all those things, I want to look at closely, because the issue at the end of the day, the core issue was the immigration challenge. United Kingdom was sick, the conservative government and the number of people in the population, they were sick of having these immigrants run into their countries. But my question is, their country rather. But my question is, what will make somebody run out of their own country? People don't just wake up and say, I want to leave my country forever. and brave the challenges and the danger associated with running through the Sahara Desert and the desert to the migrant boats, which many of the time these boats capsize and they die. So many people will not risk their lives if they're not running away from fire. So the question you ask is, what is setting their countries on fire, making them run, both from Africa and the Middle East? Policies that the United Kingdom have championed. Let's remember that after NATO, with the blessing of United Kingdom, invaded Libya and set the country on fire. Remember the number of people who ran out of Africa because of the terrorists. Because many of the terrorists, in fact, that's the reason why we have this issue in the Sahel region. Because many of those weapons, United States flooded into and NATO flooded into Libya, got into the hands of bad actors who have then turned out to be terrorists disturbing us in the Sahel region. That's the cause. That's the cause. You cannot talk about the terrorism going on in Africa and not point your hand to what NATO did in Libya in 2011. But the United Kingdom supported that policy. They did. So when they supported the policy and then they are refusing the effects of the policy they support, does not make any sense. Apart from Libya, let's look at Syria. What United States did in Syria, the bombing and the chaos that happened in Syria, was supported by who? United Kingdom. This is and then because of the fire that was burning in Syria, many of those people ran out of their countries. Or if we talk about the economic sanctions that makes living really hard for people in this region, makes them looking for green pastures. They run into Europe and United Kingdom. Should we forget that? So the problem with immigration is not the solution to the immigration problem that they're having in UK, not just UK, actually the whole of Europe and also Americas. But because this conversation is about UK, I want to focus on it. So the solution is not bundling these people who are looking for green pastures, who are looking for security. The solution is not bundling them and throwing them to Rwanda. Thank God Kestama has killed that. But that's not the solution. The solution is to champion better policies that makes the world more peaceful. The more peaceful the world is, the more people stay in their respective countries. It's very simple. Nobody just wants to stand up from their essential home and run into the United Kingdom just because they feel like it. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So I hope the United Kingdom learns its lesson. It's $400 million lesson. It's $400 million lesson. I hope the United Kingdom learns this thing and champions policies that makes the world more peaceful with security, with economic stability. United Kingdom champions policies that makes the world more peaceful. Because the more peaceful the world is, the less likely people are going to run away from their homes and their countries into your own. But like I said, I don't think they would learn. So we can expect more $400 million mistakes. Don't forget to like and subscribe and also let me know what you think about this particular topic in the comment section below. Now for our third and final conversation for today. The president of Cameroon, Paul Biya, requested the parliament to postpone elections and they did. The opposition parties in Cameroon are saying, oh, this is Paul Biya's plan to stay in power forever, and they're pushing back against it. But I don't really think that anything is going to change. The election had postponed to 2026, and I think it's going to stay like that. But let's look at Mr. President Paul Biya. He's 91 years old. He's old and frail. In fact, if you saw him at the US Africa Summit in 2022, he looked like his intellectual capabilities were non-existent. They had to tell him. I remember that video. One of the videos I saw, he was asking, "Who are these people?" He was.
Pourquoi je suis en vedette ici? C'est qui tous ces gens qui sont là?
He was on a panel. He was supposed to be on. In fact, he had just taken his seat on that panel. So these are the people in the audience, and he didn't even know. They say, "Who are these people?" And they told him, "Sit down." He said it was so embarrassing. He's 91 years old. He's hardly in his country, Cameroon. Most of the time, he lives in Switzerland. You're president of a country. You don't freaking live in the country that you're president of. and you're pushing postponing elections. His travels across the world, mostly within Europe, his travels have run into millions of dollars. Yet Cameroon is in economic crisis. The cost of living has skyrocketed. His people are hungry because inflation is pinching their pockets. Now let's talk about the insecurity in Cameroon. For several years now, there's been this clash between the Anglophone and Francophone. But bottom line, it has led to a serious security challenge in the country. These people are in power. In their time of being in power, he has been in power for for decades. I'll find the exact number of years he's been in power. He's been in power for decades. You have been in power for this long time. You have not found a solution to the challenges faced by Cameroonians. Yet, you think it's a wise thing to postpone elections to give you more time in power. I thought if somebody has not been able to fix a problem, they get out of the way, let others who are able to fix it come into power. But no, that seems okay in Africa. I don't know, in as much as on this show, we talk about foreign policy a lot. Looking at domestic policies, a lot of these African leaders are shamefully incompetent. Example, Paul Biya. You have not fixed the security issue in your country. You have not fixed the economic issue in your country. You are sick. You are very clearly not able. See how Americans are asking Joe Biden to step down because he showed a he showed a it was a very embarrassing sight during his debate with Donald Trump. But in Cameroon, we are not hearing any of that. Clearly, he's probably in the same league with Joe Biden, or maybe even worse. But you don't hear any of these things. There are no calls to keep him out of office because you don't even live in the country. He most of the time he spends his time in Switzerland. You don't even live in the country you govern. So why are you trying to stay longer in power? What see? Let me tell you something. See the era of incompetent government in Africa. That era is over. I'm telling you. That era is over. Very soon, things like this will not be seen. Why? Because there's a new crux of youth, a new crux of leadership, of young people who are coming up in Africa, who are expecting more from their leadership. Example, see what just happened in Kenya. For a long time, maybe Ruto thought, well, whatever, because Ruto he was living the lavish lifestyle. Every time he's traveling, you see his wristwatch. You see the wristwatch of the people in his cabinet. They were living lavishly, and Kenyans were suffering. So finally, the Kenyans had it, and they went to the streets. It didn't just lead to the reversal or the scrapping of the proposed tax reforms. That wasn't just the victory they got. Now we just saw news that William Ruto had cleared his cabinet. So all those people who were because when government were in office, they were flashing designer clothes and bags and wristwatches and cars. Now they are out of power. Their heads will probably come down because that is not what leadership is. I don't know if we in Africa we don't understand. We don't understand what leadership really means. And then those who understand, who now try to come into power, the system is so rigged. The system is so embarrassing that they rig them up because they don't want people who are going to come to change. Because if you change it, that means the personal benefits that they get, they will not get it anymore. Do you understand? Since Ruto, he has calmed down. His cabinet, they've cleared the cabinet. So my question is, so you knew you could do these things since. Why were they acting like this? Because the people will let them. The people will let them. And that is what I want to advocate for in this segment. Right? That's what I want to advocate for in this segment. That Africans should get more serious. We need to get more serious about politics. Not just about entering politics, about following politics and holding our leaders in power. Because many of the nonsense we see in Africa, like this Paul Biya, who is trying to, at 91 years, he's still even trying to postpone election to 2026. Who told you you will stay till 2026? Because he's an old man. What if God calls him tomorrow? At this point, you'll be expecting that he wants to set up a system that will benefit the Cameroonians. No, he wants to prolong his stay in power at 91 years. At 91 years, at the US Africa Summit, He was supposed to be on a panel discussion and he was asking about the audience. Who are these people? That shows that he's really mentally, I'm trying to look for a really nice word, soft, really mentally soft. So Africans, we need to get more committed, more serious with politics because things like this will keep happening as long as they happen and we look away. If we can learn anything from Kenya, is that we should push back when the government is trying to do things that are not in our benefit. We should push back, because that's what governance is. If it's government of the people, and if government is really about the people, then holding them responsible is the right thing to do. Having said that, that is one end. The other end I want to talk about is as Paul Biya just successfully postponed elections in Cameroon to 2026. That is a civilian coup. That is a civilian coup. That is he trying to mingle and wrestle his way so they can stay in power forever. That's a civilian coup. Why is the African Union not shouting? Why are the other regional blocs and organizations not shouting? Why? Everybody's quiet. We saw the same thing in Senegal when President Sall attempted to hijack the government because he knew who he wanted to come into power was not going to win. After putting in prison his opposition, the opposition leaders, he wanted to hijack the elections. But the Senegalese, the people of Senegal, refused. They went into the streets. They refused. They fought for it, and finally they got the leaders they wanted. Why didn't ECOWAS in that situation say no, 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 that is a coup. President Sall, don't do that. No, they were quiet. African Union was quiet. The same thing that's happening now in Cameroon. The African Union is quiet, and the Central Africa bloc is quiet. But if it's military now, they all start shouting. What's the difference? Because these ones are wearing uniform and these other ones are wearing civilian clothing. What it's as simple as taking off your military uniform and wearing civilian clothing and doing it's the same thing. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. There's no difference. So that's the hypocrisy of these institutions across Africa. Military coup bad, civilian coup good. Coup is coup. Coup is coup. Hijacking government is hijacking government. Forget one is wearing uniform and the other is wearing civilian clothes. It's not. It's the same thing. That's the hypocrisy. But anyway, at this point, I really don't care about them. I care about we Africans because we are the people who are going to change our respective countries. So take politics more seriously. Know what your government is supposed to do and hold them to account because the more aloof we are about politics and governance, the more nonsense like this will go on. It's in our interest to be able to hold the feet of our leaders to the fire. That way we get the results we are looking for in Africa. So let me know, what do you think about what's going on in Cameroon? And what do you think is the solution that the people of Cameroon can put into action to change things? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you. Well, that's it. That's all we are going to cover in this episode of the Amanda Show. It's been an amazing, amazing episode from the Confederation of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to the UK's $400 million mistake in Rwanda, and also to this civilian coup in Cameroon. That's how that we've had quite an interesting conversation today. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video so that we can push this message to more Africans as we are committed to building our continent. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.